Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. 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 Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Kratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashaധ്യായിനീം Ambatvāmanusandadhāmi Bhagavadgite Bhavatveshinim Namostu te Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pullaravindayata Patranitra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purna Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradipa Prapanna Parijataya Tutravetraikapanaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Gītāmrita Duhe Namaha Sarvopanishado Gavo Dugdha Gopalanandanaha Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Dugdham Gītāmritam Mahate Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Bhishmadrona Tatajayatratachala Gandhara Nilotpala Shalyagrahavati Krupena Vahani Karnena Velakula Ashwathama Vikarna Ghora Makara Duryodhana Vartini Suttirna Kalu Pandavairana Nadi Kaivartaka Keshavaha Parashariya Vachasaroja Mamalam Gitartha Gandhotkatam Nanakyanaka Kesaram Harikatha Sambodhana Bodhitam Loke Sajjana Shatpadairaharaha Pepiyamanam Muda Bhuyat Bharata Pankajam Kalimala Pradvam Sinasreyase Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pankum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam Yam Brahma Varunindra Rudra Maruta Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sangapadakramopanishadair Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavasthita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yogino Yatyantam na vidhu surasuragana Devaya tasmai namaha Devaya tasmai namaha Devaya tasmai namaha. Welcome back to the study of the Srimad Bhagavadgita. After revising chapters 1 to 9 last Sunday, today we will delve into or plunge into the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. The 10th chapter is known as the Vibhuti Yoga. Vibhuti means the glory. Here, Vibhuti mainly means the glories of the different manifestations of the divine. In the previous chapter, Sri Arjuna is asked by Sri Krishna to focus all of his attention upon him. We must always remember that the Bhagavad-Gita is like a medicine given to a person who is suffering. Here, Arjuna was suffering from this illness or sickness of weakness. He had lost his own confidence and was suicidal, almost suicidal in his thoughts. Therefore, a proper treatment had to be given, and Sri Krishna therefore asked Arjuna that if you want to be cured of this illness of samsara of the world, then the one and only medicine or the one and only remedy is to focus all of your attention upon me, that is the Lord. In the concluding verse of this 9th chapter, Sri Krishna made it very clear. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. He said something very wonderful there. He is, I am saying this to you, mame vaishyasi yuktvaivam atmanam madparayana. I am saying this to you because you are devoted to me. Definitely you are devoted to me, but that is not enough. You must get absorbed in me. Mere devotion is not enough. One must also have the absorption in the divine. So, he concluded that chapter with that famous verse, Manmana bhava madbhaktaha madhyaji mam namaskuru. Wherever you see the manifestations of the divine, bow down low before such a person or such a thing. Bow down low, namaskuru. And the result will be that you will definitely reach me. In this chapter, Sri Krishna describes who he is and what are his glories. Without the divine himself letting us know who the divine is, that who he is, we will not be able to understand. Sri Ramakrishna used to sing a song in Bengali, Tumi na jana le pore ke tumhare jante pare, Tumi na jana le pore. If you do not reveal yourself to me, how can I know you? God should reveal. He is always revealing, there is no doubt about that. But if he doesn't reveal who he is, what is his nature, it is difficult for us mortals, human beings, to understand it. Therefore, in this chapter, Sri Krishna, in great detail, lets us know where we can find him or how we can meditate upon him. So this is the wonderful chapter. The power of the manifestation of the divine is shown over here. Now, the divine is both in the unmanifest form and the manifest form. Nirakara and Sakara. So God has to be understood like this, that God is both without form and also with form. He is both the unmanifested and the manifested. In the manifest you see variety, but in the unmanifest there is only one. Sri Ramakrishna used to give the example of a fig tree, banyan tree, which grows tremendously huge. There are banyan trees in the world which encompass almost 1 kilometer radius. So they are huge, they are extraordinary, very huge. Therefore, but how does that banyan tree grow, the fig tree grow? From a very tiny seed, extremely tiny. If you have seen the seed of a banyan tree, it is extremely tiny. Even if you take it in your hand, it will just slip off. It is so tiny. But from that comes out a huge tree. In the same way, this universe has come out from that one Unitarian principle out of which the whole universe has manifested. Sri Ramakrishna used to also say Brahman and Shakti are identical. Shakti is that which produces or manifests the many. And he used to give the example of a snake coiled up and a snake that is moving. If you have seen a snake that is coiled up totally, it can stay under the ground for months together during winter and all that, it just stays there, just lying like that. So Sri Ramakrishna gave that example and said that Brahman is like the snake coiled up, and the universe is when it moves, when the snake moves, can also run very fast. So it is like that snake in motion. The universe is like the snake in motion. So the basis of the path of devotion, of bhakti, lies in recognizing the manifest aspect of the divine. How can we understand God and His creation? The Upanishads give us a clue about it. It says, Tat srishtva tad eva anupravishat. The divine being, having created srishtva, tadeva anupravishat. He entered into them. The divine has entered into the whole of this universe. So this Vibhuti Yoga, this chapter, is meant to direct our attention not to the many, but to that Unitarian principle, the one God, one object of worship. Now, when we do the worship of the divine in different forms, we are not worshipping just the object itself, but the God who manifests in that object. In Hindus just go and they pick up a stone and then they place it with respect, and then they invoke the presence of the divine over there and they worship it. And they receive extraordinary blessings by doing such worship. They are not worshipping the stone itself, but they are worshipping the divine that is manifest in that stone or that object, so to say. And another point that we will come to know in this chapter is that wherever we see excellence, let us behold the presence of the divine over there in a greater degree. Sri Ramakrishna's words are, whenever or wherever you see excellence in something or somebody, know that God is specially manifest over there. That is, there is an extra manifestation of the divine. This brings us to my memory an incident in the life of Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda was in Alwar in Rajasthan. The king of Alwar had invited Swamiji to his palace, and it was on the top floor. And as he was sitting there in that big drawing room, there were painted pictures all over in the room. And just at that moment, they heard a procession of the divine, Uruvalam or procession, going past that place. So some people were carrying a deity, and then they were going, singing the name and glories of the divine. The king, he was educated, he had gone to receive Western education, and so he spoke to Swami Vivekananda, and he said, Swamiji, do you see these innocent people taking an image and then going on this procession with all glee, with all joy, they are passing by? They are all dim-witted people. See, how can God reside in an image? God cannot reside in an image at all. And then the procession passed by. Swami Vivekananda looked at a picture on the wall and asked the Divanji, that is the minister, the king, said, Divanji, can you bring that picture down? So that it was a painting. And then he asked the king, O king, whose painting is this? Oh, it is my respected father's. Okay, then he told the Divanji, put that on the ground and spit upon it. The Divanji was trembling with fear. And Swamiji repeated, I am telling you, spit upon it. He would not even dare to come near to the picture. So then Swamiji looked at the king and said, did you see, O king, when I asked this picture to be brought down and then to be placed on the floor, that itself was sacrilegious, and then to spit upon it, the Divanji would not do it with all his life. Why? Your father is not there in this picture. It is just a cloth, canvas cloth, and some paint smeared on top of it, that's all. Your father is not living in this picture. So why should that be done? Why should not it be? Why should not the Divan spit upon it? Why? Because by handling it or by seeing it, one feels the presence of the father or the memory of one's father. In the same way, O king, these people are not dim-witted. They are all under people who have devotion to the divine. They just invoke the presence of the divine in the painting, in the picture or in an emblem, and they worship it. So one does not worship the object itself, but to the God who manifests himself in it. A question also arises, and Sri Krishna will be mentioning it over here also. Is God not present in the weak, in the ugly, And in the wicked, yes, God is present there also. In that form, He is not present in that form. But we should not go and then embrace it. We should not go and get involved in it. So it has its utility. The ugly things and also the wicked things also have their utility. Just like the organic waste that we throw. See, leaves and so many other things, even dead dead creatures, everything you throw it into the organic bin or into the waste pit, so that it becomes a waste, and then from that a beautiful flower garden can be created or an orchard can be created. It has got its own utilitarian value, but we need not go and make friends with it or try to hug that. Sri Ramakrishna used to say that there is the Mahut Narayan, that means the driver of the elephant is there, but if the elephant goes mad, you are not going to stand before the elephant and say, "Oh, elephant God, help me up." You don't pray to that God. And no, you don't do it. You should pay heed to the Mahut or the driver. So, Shandilya, one of the lawgivers, just like Manu, Shandilya also has written Grihya Sutras. Sutras means the texts which deal with the do's and don'ts. So he says that the powers or attributes need not be made the object of love and adoration. Powers of the God, powers of the divine, or the attributes need not be made the object of love and adoration. Pranitvatna vibhutishu. It's only an invitation to see God in everything. But in this chapter, Sri Krishna specifically disagrees with that, and he says, no, God, if you know the attributes of the divine, you are worshipping God itself. Like we chant several mantras, for example. Do all of us know the meaning of those mantras? We do not know the meaning of all of those mantras. Then, if you do not know the meaning of the mantras, would they not have any power? No, they have got inherent power in them. Even if you know the meaning or you do not know the meaning of it, they will exert the power. Only when you know it, you feel a great urge, or you feel a great enthusiasm to repeat it with great devotion and so on and so forth. But there are people who chant mantras without knowing the meaning of it, yet the meaning will reveal its power to them. So, in the same way, if we know the attributes of the divine, if we even love the attributes of the divine, that itself will take us to the divine. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, Josho Kore Bhagavanir Padapodde Mondeva. That means somehow or the other, with whatever means you can employ, if you can place your mind in God, if you can divert your attention towards the God, you have achieved the goal. So, 10th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita is meant to teach the worship of God with power. So, first see the best aspect of everything and behold the power of the divine. There is another example given to say this. There was a king who was imprisoned in the tower, on the top tower. And so he had to escape. There was a window through which he can come down, but he could not jump. It was very high. So he sent message to his people, his wife, to get a small string, a very tiny silk string which was tied to a beetle, and a drop of honey was smeared to one of its whiskers, and then it was tasty. It was smelling the honey, and it was trying to get the honey. So it started climbing the wall. So it went high up, and the king caught hold of the beetle, and then he started dragging that small silken thread. And then his people tied a little stronger, a little thicker string to that, and then he took that, and in the end, a very mighty rope was also sent along in the same way, and then he could get it. That is, from the subtle to the gross. He could take that and then he could escape. So, by taking, for example, knowing the attributes of the divine, we are catching hold of that silken string, and then you can slowly and slowly climb up the ladder or climb up the heights of spiritual knowledge. Yeah, with that introduction to this chapter, let us go into the study of this chapter. Sri Bhagavan Bhuya eva mahabaho shrinu me paramam vachaha yatteham pipriyamanaya vakshyami hitakamyaya. Hey Mahabaho, O mighty armed Arjuna, Bhuya eva Mahabaho srinu me paramam vachaha srinu. Listen to these paramam vachaha, supreme words of myself, paramam vachaha. And he also uses the word bhuya eva, again. That means I have spoken about this earlier, but there is nothing new yet. I am repeating the same thing again here with an added force, an additional force. Why am I doing this? It says, aham priyamanaya. You are my beloved. Priyamana. You are my beloved. And I am saying this to you because hitakamyaya vakshyami. I am saying this for your welfare. See, in studying the Vedas, while studying the Vedas, the Vedic method of teaching says that if you repeat the same thing again and again, it is not good. Why? In olden days, they didn't have the written, they had the written language, but the instructions used to be given from the teacher to the disciple. So, if the teacher repeated certain things again and again to the disciple, what happens is the memory storage will become less. So therefore it will be cluttered. Therefore they used to give the instructions once and not repeat it again. Or one mantra used to be said and that same will not be repeated again. So it is called as punaravritti dosha. That means in grammar it is called as punaravritti dosha. That means the error of repetition. It is because one had to memorize so much and one cannot clutter one's memory with too many things of the same type. But in spiritual life, we need to listen to the words of Guru again and again. what it does is, while you listen to it again and again, it creates a groove, it's a samskara, and it becomes indelible. If you listen once, there is a danger that you might forget it. There are very few people who are Shrutidharas who will listen to it once and um, who can hold on to the memory for a very long time. But generally, most of us listen to it, but then we forget it the very next moment. But if these noble thoughts are repeated again and again and again, it creates an indelible impression. The other thing is, the repetition goes deeper into one's own being. If I have to root out all my past samskaras, my past evil tendencies, etc., and plant a new thing over there, first of all, the old samskaras must be removed. For that, one must dive very deep. One must dig very deep. One must dig deep and then remove or root out that, and then you plant a new plant. So then only you will get a new crop. So here he says that I am saying this because again and again, because my words are very deep, gudha, they are very deep, and you must, this will remove your old samskaras and yet put into you a new samskara, a new thought process, so that you can modify your life, you can change your ways of living. Then he says, and the other thing he says is, you are priyamanaya. You are very dear to me. See, where there is genuine love, there is no fear of being misunderstood. If there is love in the heart of the teacher, and if there is love in the heart of the student, then there is no chance of misunderstanding. Even if the teacher becomes very harsh, the disciple will only accept it as a prasada, as a sacrament from the Guru. Therefore, in priti, in love, there cannot be genuine love. Hatred cannot come over, or hurtfulness does not come. Where love is only skin deep, as they say, there is fear. But where there is genuine love, there is no fear at all. So he says, you are priyamanaya. You are very dear to me. I know we have lived together, we have studied together, we have traveled together, and in all of this, I have understood you, you have understood me, and there is this bond of genuine love between us. There is no hypocrisy of feelings between us. That is the idea. So, when the student's mind is like a hot iron, what happens is, as soon as the teacher puts it on the anvil and hits with a hammer, the iron will take shape. So that heat or that capacity is produced by genuine love only. When the teacher hits the iron, that is, the mind will bend down, and the students yields to such teachings. And moreover, when a student is keen, then only will the teacher put full effort, total effort to teach. In the Upanishads we find Ascharya, in the Katha Upanishad, Ascharyo Vakta Kushalosya Labdha Ascharyo Jnata Kushalanusishtaha. When the teacher is also a wonderful teacher, and the listener or the disciple is also a keen learner. Only when there is that keenness, knowledge will become fruitful. Real knowledge will be imparted by the teacher only when there is that keenness. So that is what he says. And the other thing he says is, Hita kamyaya. I only want your welfare. Hita kamya. Two words are there, hita and kama. Hita means welfare, kama means desire. Desire. So I desire your welfare. There are two words in Sanskrit language. One is priya and the other is hita. Priya is that which is very sweet to hear, that which is very pleasant to hear. So it may be pleasant, but it may not be of any use at all. But hita is where there is this welfare. So for the sake of welfare of the disciple, sometimes harsh words might be used or harsh techniques could be adopted. So he says, you are so beloved of me and I am only desirous of your good. God does not have any karma. God does not have any desire. Yet, he manifests this kind of desire in him, not for any selfish means or selfish ends, but only for loka sangraha, for the welfare of the whole of the universe. So, when the disciple excels through this process, when the disciple excels, the teacher becomes very happy. In Telugu, we used to hear one word, Guruvuni minchina shishudu. It means the teacher becomes so happy when the disciple excels him. So that is the kind of teacher that we have here in Sri Krishna. In the next verse, Name vidussuragana prabhavam namaharshayah ahamadirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvashah. Suraganaha me na viduhu, me prabhavam na viduhu. Suraganaha, the hosts of gods. Who are gods? Devas. They are called Devas. Deva or Suras. Devas are shiny beings. So that is, their whole beings has become so purified that it is shining. So therefore Suragana, they are also known as Sura. Sura means those who supply the needs for the people. They are called as Suras. Asuras are those who take away from you. So Suraganaha na viduhu, they do not know my origin. Even the hosts of gods do not know my origin. Gods are a little bit higher than humans. And he says, na maharshayah, even the maharshis, even the rishis, those who have lived a very pure life and who have practiced a lot of spiritual disciplines through yoga and jnana, they even have not understood me in full. That is, it's not possible for anyone to understand the divine in full. That is why the Lord sometimes comes down to earth as avatars, as incarnated being, in order to be more accessible to us. But yet one cannot understand the divine fully. And then he says, Aham Adihi. I am the Adi. I am the origin of all these devas, all these divine beings, and Maharshinam, of the Maharshis. Devatas and Maharshis are far more intelligent than we human beings. Yet, the secret about the Lord is not known fully to them. But the Divine knows about us all much better than ourselves. So there is a saying that a father knows about everything about his son, but a son may not know everything about his father. So here also Sri Krishna says, I know everything about these divine beings, but they do not know anything about me. So that is why Sri Krishna is revealing some of those secrets, we can call the secrets or glories here in this chapter. Yo mam ajamanadincha vetti lokamaheshwaram asammudaha samartyeshu sarvapapai pramuchyate. Yaha mam anadim ajam lokamaheshwaram vetti. One who knows me as Anadi, without beginning. Adi means beginning, Na Adi is Anadi, without beginning, and Ajam, unborn, that is eternal. Loka Maheshwaram is the master of all the worlds. Maheshwara. Mahan Ishvara iti Maheshwara. It means he is the one who is supreme of all the worlds. Then Yoveti, one who knows me as this. Martyeshu asammudaha sarva papaihi pramuchyate. Martyeshu, in this world or among the mortals of this world, he becomes undiluted. And asammuda. Muda means delusion. So, one who is not deluded is asammudaha. Saha sarva papai pramuchyate. Is freed from all sins. That is, one who knows that the divine is the very root cause of the whole of the universe. The God is my all in all, and I belong to the divine. This conviction must come to us. Sometimes we think we are born to such parents or and so to such places and all of that. One must go beyond the understanding of this mortal world, and then one has to understand the divine from a very higher perspective, that he is my all in all. The divine is my all in all. That must be understood, which Sri Krishna mentions over here, and then we will go to the next verse next week, Buddhi, from next week. From the fourth verse onwards, Sri Krishna reveals the many aspects in which one can recognize the presence of the divine. We will take it up next Sunday. Om Shantakaram Bhujagashayanam Padmanabham Suresham Vishwadharam Gaganasadrisham Meghavarnam Shubhangam Lakshmikantam Kamalanayanam Yogiratyanagamyam Vande Vishnum Bhavavayaharam Sarvalokaikanatram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.